Life is full of bittersweet transitions. It's difficult to know how these changes will impact us over time. They can hit harder than expected and may contribute to feelings of hopelessness.
You good, sir?
Or even thoughts of suicide.
We got this.
Support from friends and family can make a big difference to a veteran going through a difficult time.
We've got this, Dad.
Yeah. All right. Let's go.
I got this.
Together, our actions could help save a life. Learn more at veteranscrisisline.net.
Hello and welcome again to Oscar Mike Radio. I'm the host. My name is Travis. Oscar Mike Radio is part of the Hubazoo Network. You can find out more on hubazoo.com. And as usual, I can't thank my sponsors and supporters enough. Joyce ASAC of ASAC Real Estate, Reaper Detailing and Power Washing, Simper Savage, Caisson Shaving Company, and Bottom Gun Coffee. And I cannot begin to tell you, ladies and gentlemen, how excited I am right now. This has taken over 2 years to happen. This man sitting to my left, maybe right on your screen, but it has taken 2 years to get here. May I introduce Guy Bensing to Oscar Mike Radio. Guy, welcome.
Oh, thank you, man. My nickname's the Hawaii Blues Fan. So, like I said, I'm smiling about it. It's not laughing. It's the fact that, we both made a commitment to this and we stuck through it. So that's why I'm smiling about it.
Yeah, you've been doing this for a while. So we're going to get into what this is. You see all that blue back there, which he can explain. But, you're a veteran. You served in the Navy. Why don't you start us off with, your military service, if you would?
Okay. I joined the Navy in 1987 out of high school. I actually went to a military high school. I went to St. Louis NJROTC, Naval Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps at Cleveland High School. I was in one of the first few classes of that. So we were a pilot program. Unfortunately, this year was the last year of that program. So it lasted 30-something years. I joined the Navy. I was a gas turbine system mechanic, served at my first duty station was in Norfolk, served 2 years over there. And then I ended up in Japan for the Gulf War, served on the USS Mobile Bay back during the Gulf War in 1991. Spent 9 years out of the next 10 or 12 in Japan. Spent my last 4 in Hawaii and retired here.
Awesome. So you're a St. Louis Blues fan in the state of Hawaii.
Yes, sir.
Awesome. And just out of curiosity, you get out and you settle in Hawaii. What was that transition like?
Actually, I'm still transitioning, to be honest with you, and I've been out since 2007. It's been the transition for me has been tough, right? Didn't have the greatest military career, and some of those regrets, some of those things that had happened in my military career have continued to follow me. In 2018, I'd been out for 11 years and it just all caught up, and I had a breakdown. I had a complete mental breakdown, and I got within 170 feet of joining the 22. Right? I mean, that's how close I got, and I started getting some help after that, and I was in a group on Facebook called 22 Until None.
Oh yeah.
And I started going to group meetings, and I didn't want to go. I was not comfortable. So. And a couple other guys that talked about it. So I ended up doing these Facebook Lives on the 22 Until None. And they didn't get really great response, but they did get some response. And I thought, well, this isn't too bad. Why not just try and do this with the Blues, with my hockey team, the hockey team I love. And in October, I want to say it was October 12th, it was a Blues game against Calgary. I started my show, and at that time I called it the pregame rant. and it's had a few name changes since then, and it's now called the name that I've settled on. On game days, I call it the Blue Note Fan Report, and on non-game days, I call it the Hockey Fan Report.
Well, so did the starting the show kind of help you bounce back in a way? I know you're still transitioning.
Yeah.
It's very interesting you said that, but it sounds like getting this hockey show really kind of helped you find something.
It did. It was my therapy, right? It really was my therapy. It was my chance to get out and do something and do something that I was comfortable with. What had set off my episode was I had lost my job, and I had no prospects and a lot of other things. A lot of ugliness bubbled to the surface, right? I mean, a lot of ugliness bubbled to the surface. This happened in February, and I don't start going to group until July, right? So there's that period. And while even in that period, I wasn't comfortable in my own skin. Was not comfortable. I was working 7 days a week, delivering food. I worked for Pizza Hut, and I worked for Bike Squad at the time, delivering food. That was the only way I could make money. I was not I wasn't considered a disabled vet yet. I had never filed. And finally people convinced me to start to file. Right. And that's what I did. And in this period is when I finally get I first get, it's the first time that the depression and the PTSD and the anxiety that I had dealt with for decades was acknowledged. Because while I was in the service, it was swept under the rug consistently. Right.
So this was something that happened before you went into the service.
I say I probably had a little bit of it there, but the service exacerbated it. Gotcha, took it. And then during the Gulf War, during that first Gulf War, a lot of people look at the guys in the Navy and don't think that, we were really out there. My ship, we saw the coast of Kuwait every single night. We were the closest ship to Kuwait, and we were in a minefield for 40-something days.
The Navy was in a minefield, right? But they were also doing shore-based shelling. I mean, you got
we did a little bit of that. Our operations was more the oil fields. We were the first ship since Korea to fire on another ship in anger. Yeah. I mean, actually fire on a ship. We fired on gunboats and sunk gunboats during one of the nights. So for me, it was that, hearing the guns all the time, being under the waterline. I wrote about it in a story I wrote on my buddies here, the Blues Warriors. We can talk about that later.
I want to talk about that. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm an honorary member of this since I'm living in Hawaii, but
I love it. I freaking love it.
Right. Got me when I was home in August, they got me my own jersey and put my ship number on there for me. But I wrote about this and you can find it on stlfanreport.com. I have a couple articles about my naval service there. One night, I remember hearing a big old hunk of metal bounce against the side of the skin of the ship in the engine room. And to be honest with you, I thought I was dead. I remember being as white as a sheet. Somebody coming down to me and going, "Man, what's wrong?" And I'm telling him, and he's like, "I didn't think nothing of it." Yet for me, I slept. My rack was right along the skin of the ship. I had a hard time sleeping. Instead of, our racks are 6 foot tall, I'm 6'2". I'd ball up a little bit. I would completely ball up. I mean, I'd be as close to balled up. So if something happened, I would get, knocked out of my rack. And that you don't realize how that wears on you over time. And I still sleep that way. I have to sleep balled up. I can't stretch out.
No, I've met some Navy guys who say they adopted a certain sleeping position on the ships and they never changed. You go through all this. Let's back up a little bit. Where does the love for the Blues and hockey come into your life?
when I was probably 6 or 7 years old. Right. I was born in St. Louis. Right. I'm from St. Louis. My grandfather, who worked at the brewery, was a betting man, and he loved the horses. But he also figured out that hockey was at that time was pretty easy to bet on. Right. And a lot of the bookies didn't have great information on the teams. So he started going to games to talk to players before games, and then calling, going to the payphone and calling his bookie and placing bets. Right. So he would take me to games, and because he would sit down low, I got to sit down low. And I remember going in the, early 70s, 73, 74, 75, when I was, 4, 5, 6 years old, and maybe a little bit, up until 7 and 8, and watching the games, and the smell of the ice, it never leaves you.
Right.
When you walk into an arena, and it doesn't matter if it's an NHL arena, a minor league arena, or a local skate park, though, when you smell that ice, that fresh ice, it hits you, and it never leaves you. And I just so remember that, and it just gripped me, and I've been a hockey fan ever since. Well,
because that's one of the first things, everybody, that I noticed about Guy is I'm like, okay, this is a dyed-in-the-wool Blues fan. And the reason I kind of chuckle at that is, they've kind of been the redheaded stepchildren to the Blackhawks. And then when the Predators came in your division, the Predators were the new kids in the block. It's like the Blues have always had to kind of like struggle for attention.
Yep. We had a period where we really had attention, and that was the Brett Hull years.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. He saved hockey in St. Louis. Right. He basically saved hockey in St. Louis, and the building that they're in now, I mean, that's the building that he built. Right. But in 2006, right after the 2004 lockout, 2005, 2006, we had an owner that was really bad, sold off the team, and really placed the team into Netherlands. And it took us until 2019 to really regain that. And even in 2019 was just, that was the first year I just started my show, 18-19 season. What a magical season to start a podcast, and to do something like this. And, my podcast still struggles. I'm lucky if I get 25 viewers, but I don't care, because for me, I get to talk about what I love. I get to take my opinion out there, and I get to hear others' opinions. So
it might be 25 viewers, listeners, whatever you want to call it. But look, I'm a Blackhawks fan. I follow the Bruins, but I am like, when you get other Bruins fans on your, stream to talk with you or on the chat, these are like, hardcore, we are Blues fans. And it's really cool to see that.
Yeah.
And you brought this community together. And so, does the show now give you an outlet for a lot of your, challenges in the past and allow you to create something that's truly yours? This is all you.
Yeah, no, it does. It does. It's still my therapy. It's always going to be my therapy, right? It's going to be the thing that I look at. And when I was a kid, see, this was something else that goes into this. When I was a kid, I got diagnosed with something known as Gershman syndrome. And it's a learning disability that affects your ability to write. Well, back then, not much was known about it. And basically, they just said, you don't have to write anymore. Well, I used that crutch all through my life, not realizing that, I told myself stories in my head all the time, right? And I loved, and I would read articles, and I think, man, I could do something better. But then I'd have this mental block. And I got offered a chance to join a group, and I thought it was just podcasting, but they wanted me to write. So I challenged myself, and I wrote an article. It's now on my website called How Hockey Saved Me. And it's about me following Brett Hull's chase for 50 goals in 50 games in the 90-91 season during the Gulf War. And it's always had an impact on me, and hockey's had an impact on me and how I do things. And living in Hawaii for a while, I forgot that. I lost that. right?
Is there any hockey in Hawaii at all?
Yes, we have an ice rink. We have an ice rink. We have a couple of beer leagues. Unfortunately, it's closed right now with COVID, but since they're lifting restrictions, I look for it to open up soon.
I would never in my wildest dreams. I mean, I served in Yuma, Arizona when the Coyotes were getting going. So all of a sudden the hockey came to Arizona, but Hawaii has to be the last place in Earth I would think there'd be a hockey rink. Well, this is amazing.
Yeah, so, no, it's not big here. It's not big here at all. I mean, and the majority of the people that play are, military members. That's the majority of the people that play. There's a inline hockey rink up on this island in the far parts of this island that gets a pretty good crowd. But it's the same thing. It's there's some locals, but it's mainly transplants that build it.
Yeah. What is it that makes hockey just a great sport to participate in and watch? I try to tell people that, and I didn't play hockey growing up. I played a little inline hockey in the Marine Corps, but there's something that sets hockey apart from other sports and other pro sports.
For me, it's really hard to say. It's a chess game on a sheet of ice.
Okay.
Right. And a lot of people don't see that. They don't understand that. They think football is a chess game, and football to me is nowhere near the chess game that hockey is.
I would agree.
Because hockey, everything's happening at once, and you have to adjust to those things happening. Like I talk on my show consistently about the neutral zone and how important it is. And I compare that to those thinner four squares of a chessboard, right? Anyone that's serious about chess will tell you that those are the squares that you have to control to win a chess game. Well, it's the same thing with hockey. With hockey, you have to control the center of the ice. And you're doing this on a micro thin blade at 20 miles an hour, right? With a puck that's hard going 90 miles an hour, right? And with bodies, 200-pound bodies crashing into each other at 20 miles an hour. I remember seeing something on Sports Science where they compared the hits in the sports. And the hit of a hockey got up to 3 Gs. 3 times the force of a gravity. That was what a hit in hockey was. And I think football was at like 1 G and basketball was negative 5 Gs. Right? I think they put a catcher collision at like 1.5 Gs.
Well, it's just the whole neutral zone chess game, understanding how icing works and how the defense has to play off the offense in real time, right? We like watching the forwards, and they're the flash and dash guys, but a defender will make and break you. The psychology of a goaltender, like I would read stuff about how goaltenders really are wired differently than
they have to be.
Right. This whole
first of all, a goaltender and a catcher are kind of the same. They say the same thing about catchers, right? And to me, probably the greatest defensive catcher in the league, if not the greatest catcher, is Yadier Molina.
Yeah.
And Yadier, when he's behind the plate, his mentality changes. He's a different person behind the plate than he is when he's not behind the plate. And he has to portray that, and he's got to have that air of superiority sometimes. Well, a hockey goalie, you have to understand that they're wearing these pads, these, and they're letting this hard rubber puck get fired at them at 90 miles. Al McGinnis would fire the puck at 110 miles an hour. 110 miles an hour. Think about this. This puck traveling 100 feet, or even less than that, 70 feet at 100 miles an hour. How quick that gets there. Right?
And at least stop it or try to get in front of it on purpose.
Yeah. Right. And purposely get in front of it, or catch it or knock it out of the way. These guys have got to have a different mindset. And then they've got to be a quarterback. They've got to be a catcher. They've got, They've got to constantly pay attention. And that one of the most infamous moments in Blues history is because a goaltender wasn't paying attention. Right? And yeah. I think you know what I'm talking about. Game 7, the second round, and I want to say it was 95 or 96 playoffs against Detroit, right? John Casey's in net. Grant Fuhr's injured. They take it all the way to double overtime, and Stevie Yzerman notices that Casey's not paying attention, fires the puck from the blue line, and ends that game and that series. Right? But they don't make it to the playoffs because that series just took so much out of them. But that was the only time that Gretzky and Hull played together.
Yeah.
And that was a team that could have gone all the way if it wasn't for a goaltender that wasn't paying attention. It comes down to that much.
It comes down to that much, and it's just, it's a different kind of game. It's a different kind of game. I didn't understand a lot of it when I first got to the Northeast.
Yeah.
But I really admired the athleticism. And then when my kids started playing, I got a whole new appreciation for it. That these, they start them young in football and basketball, but I mean, you'd see toddlers on milk crates skating and then come back 5 years later and there's natural to them.
Yeah.
And that's what it takes to do that. That's what it takes to do that. So, it's a really interesting, fascinating game that you're talking about here. And it's a really fascinating team. Now, is St. Louis is or is not one of the original 8?
No, they're not one of the original 6 of the second 6. Right?
Yeah.
Right. That they were there's an interesting thing. If it wasn't for the Chicago Blackhawks, there wouldn't be a St. Louis Blues.
Really?
Yes. So back in 66, 67, when they were getting ready to do this expansion, the Wirtz family owned the arena in St. Louis. It was in disrepair. They wanted to get rid of it. So they went to the NHL and told the NHL, if you want us to stay in the league, you're going to give St. Louis a team and tell them that they got to buy the arena from us. So St. Louis didn't even put in a bid for that team. They were awarded the team. Sid Solomon's son thought it was really cool and convinced his dad to buy the team to make the bid and buy the arena, and they put the money into it. So if it wasn't for the Blackhawks, there wouldn't be a Blues. And this is part of the reason with the rivalry that built up, right? And not only that, the Blackhawks won the championship 2 years before expansion, right? Expansion hit them really, really hard. They lost Glenn Hall. They lost some other guys that hit them really, really hard. And they didn't win another Stanley Cup until 2013 or 2010.
Yeah.
Right. So they had this really long streak of not winning a cup. I kind of lost my place for a second, but that connection between them is what drove that rivalry to what it is today.
It's a huge rivalry, huge.
It's probably the best in the NHL or the most underrated in the NHL.
Well, everybody talks about the Canadians and the Bruins hating each other. Detroit hates everybody, but no, I'm like the Blues Blackhawks is, you can tell that they're ready for that game. They bring it, the chippiness up a little bit, and the refs kind of let them slug it out, which is nice.
Oh, yeah. I tell people, right now, a lot of Blues fans are real happy that Chicago's having their struggles. I tell them I want Chicago to be good.
Really?
Because it makes the rivalry better.
And Chicago used to be good, man. I mean, they were good for, not like Stanley Cups every year, but they were in the playoffs year after year after year. And a lot of us, including myself, took it for granted. They let, Coach Q go, and well, we're seeing, the gutting of the team. I mean, it's going to be a different team, but you're doing this, right? You decide to create this show. Mm-hmm. And here's where I really kind of want you to spend some time with me is I've been doing this for a while. You've been doing this for a while, but I don't think people really appreciate what it takes to say, I'm going to do this, and then do it for not a couple months or a season, but for years. You've done this for years.
Yeah.
So what goes into this drive to create your show, and maybe 5 people watch it, maybe 200 people watch it, but what's it mean to you to create your report and talk about the game you love?
Okay, well, my show's morphed a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it started out as just this little live pregame rant that I recorded and put in groups, and then I found some software that would allow me to add, video editing software. So I started doing a little of that, and I really got into that for a while. But it would take, to do a 30 minute to an hour show, it would take 8 to 12 hours of filming and editing. That it got to be too much. And when I wasn't working, I had the time, or I was driving, I could do it at night and get the show out before a game and things like that. But last season, after the COVID break and all of that, I just decided to start doing live shows, right? Where I did pregame and I did postgame, but then people started asking me to come on during the intermission. So I basically became a live version of, the pregame, postgame, and intermission shows. But instead of just the talking heads talking, you're able to respond back with me. The other thing is my show, in and of itself, is my connection to Blues fans, right? I live 4,000 miles away from the center of Blues hockey. It's not there for me. This is my connection to that. I have some friends now, and I don't mean this in any negative way to other people. I have friends now that I've either never met or met once through the show that are closer to me than people I've known 30, 40 years.
Here's the thing, though, right? You've got these people that are fans, and this is the one thing about sport that a lot of people miss. It's not just a game. It's a way for people to connect over something, right? It's not just a piece of cloth. St. Louis is part of who you are. I grew up in Illinois, about 3 hours from St. Louis. We'd go to the Arch and all that stuff, and it was a part of the heartland, right?
Yeah.
And it connects you now. So here's my thing. You've got these people and friends you met over the Blues. What's it like, seeing the Blues do their thing? And what do you think of them as a team right now?
This season is one of those that I came into. I wasn't counting them as a favorite, right? As a contender. I thought that they were a playoff team. That they had some things that they had a lot of question marks. One of the question marks was goaltending. They had some question marks with Vladimir Tarasenko. A lot of those questions have been answered. Some haven't. Goaltending is still being answered. But right now, where they're sitting, I think that they're a contender. I think they're one of the, I say with 2 months to go, there's 8 teams in the league that I would call contenders.
Okay.
Right. That I think have a chance at the Cup. Just off the top of my head, you have Florida, Tampa Bay, and Toronto in the Atlantic. I think that they're contenders. In the Metro, you have, for me, it's only Carolina. Unfortunately, Pittsburgh and the Rangers, they're kind of like clocked up there. And one of them is going to get knocked out right away and then have to face Carolina. So to me, that kind of takes them out of they're more in the pretender group than they are the contender group. In the Pacific, you have Calgary right now. I know a lot of people were high on Vegas, but Vegas has had some injuries, and it all depends on if those injuries get healthy. They're kind of taking the Tampa Bay route and using the LTIR to hopefully help them in the playoffs. I just don't think that they're strong enough as a team to have those players come back and help them in the playoffs. Calgary there is the one that I think there. And then in the Central, I think you have 3 teams that you could be considered contenders. Colorado is by far the favorite. Then you have St. Louis and Minnesota. Those are the teams that I consider the favorites right now. 4 of those teams are probably going to get knocked out in the first round. Right? More than likely 2, if not, 1, 2, anywhere from 2 to 4 of those teams are going to get knocked out in the first round.
Yeah.
Right? Good chance you have, excuse me, you have Tampa Bay and not Florida. I forgot the other team was now. Toronto playing each other in the first round. One of them teams getting knocked out, right? You got St. Louis, Minnesota playing each other in the first round. One of those teams gets knocked out. A number one seed usually gets knocked out in the first round. Very rare do all four of them move into the second round. So you're looking at contenders that could get knocked out very, very early. That's one of the things that I love about the NHL more than any other is their team. A lot of people, when they look at the teams, they think that the division is like this, right? Between the top team and the bottom team. What they don't realize is they're really looking at it like a microscope. They think it's the Grand Canyon. To me, it's a stream, right? It's so close that, on any given night, any team can beat any other team. And really, any team can win a 7-game series depending on, all the stuff that goes with it.
Well, look what happened to Boston last year and then Toronto the year before. Toronto gave Tampa Bay everything they could handle. Yep. It was just a couple of bad bounces of the puck, and we're looking at Toronto making it further than.
Well, yeah, but look at Toronto just last year.
Yeah.
Right. They had, Montreal, they had them down 3-1.
Yeah.
Then Montreal ends up coming back, winning those 3 games. The injury to Tavares hurt them a lot. Tavares got hit in the head on a non. The hit wasn't a dirty hit, but it was an accidental hit, is what it was. But he gets hit in the head, concussion. He's out. Montreal ends up running all the way to the finals and steals one from Tampa Bay before they double up. But it's just, you never know. In 19, St. Louis's run, right? I mean, you go back and you look at the beginning of those playoffs, and you're not going to find one outside of St. Louis, one pundit that said St. Louis was going to win that cup. Not one.
Absolutely. And that's what makes the game so great. I just want to touch on the fans real quick. I mean, one thing I noticed is, baseball fans are kind of wishy-washy. Football fans are a little bit more solid. But, if you say that you're a fan of the Detroit Red Wings, you're getting buried with that jersey and an octopus in your cactus, right? I mean, in your casket, right? You really believe that. There's something that separates the hockey fan. The one thing that I liked was last year when the New York Islanders fans got up and sang the national anthem, with that person, the crowd, the whole arena was lit up. I mean, in your mind, what separates a hockey fan from another type of sports fan?
For me, it's first of all, the buildings themselves, the older buildings, right? The older buildings, they were very, very small. And the way they were designed is you sat on top of each other, right? So you had to really understand the closeness, and you got to know your neighbors. You got to know people around you. It was very intimate, right? And as the league expanded, that intimacy really didn't go away. And then in the 90s, when all these new buildings start coming in, the United Center, the Enterprise. I know Boston got a new one in the 90s. I know Madison Square Garden got its upgrade in the 90s. In the 90s, you had a lot of these buildings getting upgraded to where they expanded and opened it up. But that closeness didn't go away, right? That neighborliness didn't go away. And hockey, because of I'm not a fan of the fighting. I'm really not. I understand it. I'm a fan of physicality, not fighting. But I understand it, and that physicality, that fighting connects people for some reason. It's a schoolyard, right? 2 guys start pushing in the schoolyard, and what do you hear? Fight, and everyone comes around. Well, hockey's the same way. Fight, and everybody in the arena gets into it. It's that fight mentality.
Well, I remember when the Dallas Stars, because I was living in Louisiana at the time, came to Dallas, and they were worried that no one down there would like it. they got into a couple of fights. All of a sudden, you got women in Shreveport, Louisiana, making sure Mike Madonna was okay. It's crazy, right? But I definitely agree with you. I've gone to the TD Garden to with my kids watch a couple of Bruins games, and everybody is keyed in. No matter where they sit, you don't have a lot of other fans getting to buy tickets, and it's really great that way. It's just a different.
Well, actually, there are some teams that travel really, really well.
Yeah.
There's a few teams out there that have limited how you buy tickets. Nashville's one. You cannot buy a ticket to a Nashville game unless you have an area code on your phone that is in that area code. Just like what the Rams did with the NFC Championship, right? There's a few teams that do that, but there are teams that travel really well. St. Louis is a team that travels well. Chicago travels well. Boston travels well. Toronto travels okay. The borderline makes it a little bit harder right now. The Rangers travel well.
Yeah.
There are teams that you will get to travel well. And then yesterday, you had the outdoor game, the Stadium Series in Nashville, and Tampa Bay had, those guys traveled up there. So you're getting this culture, you're getting this hockey culture, to where, I want to go to that other building. I want to feel that excitement. I've been in other buildings. I've been in, I was at Chicago Stadium the first time, or not the stadium. I was in the stadium for the last Blackhawks game ever against Toronto, that Game 7 first round loss. I had just come back from Japan. My wife was pregnant at the time, and I ended up winning the chance to buy tickets. So I bought them, right? That's how they did it up at Great Lakes at the time. You put your name in a lottery, and if you got picked, you get to buy the tickets, right? I had those, and then what was the? I kind of lost where. I re-enlisted before a Cardinals Cubs game in Wrigley Field, so I've had that experience both ways, right? Upper deck of Wrigley Field, that was a lot of fun. Actually, I re-enlisted a day after I got out because the game was the day after, so they kind of put my dates back a day, right? So, but it was an interesting time. Sports is something that can connect everybody, and it doesn't have the negativity of news. Right. Like guys I know that were really into the news of the day, the news people, they always felt like they had some negativity around it. But the guys that were into sports didn't seem to have that negativity. Right. And that's why I needed to get away from some of that negativity of the news and focus on sports. And so that's where I went.
Well, that is awesome. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm with Guy Bensing, Navy veteran, who has the Blues Report.
The Blue Note Fan Report.
The Blue Note Fan Report. Sorry about that.
No
and
problem.
He has done this show for a while. And when I mean a while, it's not been 6 months. It's not been 2 weeks. It's been years.
Yeah, this is my 4th season.
It's been amazing because I'm a little bit older than you, not by much, but I'm a little bit older than you. And we all had our growing pains doing stuff. But I'm like, when you see where you've been and where you are now, and the fact that we're going to do this one day, it's really special to have you on Oscar Mike Radio.
Yeah.
One of the things that came clear watching you was being inducted to the St. Louis Blues Warriors hockey. Tell us about that, because that was really a special time for you. Like, in my view, just before you tell me, it seemed like a lot of your work, was validated by that group.
It was actually. So the Warriors hockey is a part of USA Hockey that's for disabled veterans, right? This is not sled hockey. This isn't the guys on the sleds. This is able disabled veterans. So guys that have 10% or more. They're sponsored. Different cities have them. They're sponsored by different teams from around the league. The Blues Warrior program is sponsored by the Blues. I found out about it when they first started it. I found out about it during the last season when they were doing some stuff with where you couldn't have the fans in the stands and that. They were allowing the Warriors to go to games as their guests. Well, one of the Warriors took a picture of himself at one of the cardboard cutouts, and I noticed what he was wearing. I reached out to him, and they were like, "Oh yeah, we know who you are. Let's do an interview. Let's get it set up." They jumped on board, and they know that they know what they mean to me, and I'm a special person to them. So I'm not a full-fledged member. I've joined USA Hockey. I've done all that, but I'm not on a team. But they see me as part of their family. I wrote an article about them, and that article really, the night I wrote that article, I didn't sleep. Right after I released it, I was so mentally and physically drained and worried that I didn't do a good job that I couldn't sleep. I didn't get to sleep until those guys started coming out with me and telling me what they felt of the article, the guys that I interviewed and some of the other things. And then there's been a connection since then. They absolutely said, we're going to get you a jersey. There's usually this waiting period, but since I can't go to practices, they set me up with a jersey when I was home in October or in August. They gave it to me, and then the next practice, I broke my wrist. Right. But I want to get back, someday, hopefully I'll get back and I'll be a full-fledged member of them. Warrior hockey to me is a chance to do it's wearing that, officially wearing that. I'm never going to wear this. Right. I'm never going to wear that. I'm never going to be a full-fledged member of the Blues. Hell, I can't even get the Blues to recognize me as a media member to do interviews. So I know I'm never going to wear that, but I do get to wear that. I do get the chance to show my pride, not only in the team that I've loved for decades, but in the service that I had. And it's a chance for me. It's in my eyes, it's a little bit of redemption. My career sucked. I did not have a great 20-year career, right? I was a first class for 10 years. E6 for 10 years, could never get over the hump. I didn't do things that, I'm sure you can find plenty of guys that would call me a POS. And you know what? That's fine. That's, it is what it is. I have to live with that. And sometimes that's really hard to live with. This is somewhat of my redemption for that.
What happened in the service, but you've taken what happened and built this community, right? And people see that. And I think that, to your point, that is the story here. Look, I knew people in the Marine Corps that were considered stellar Marines. They get out in the civilian world and they falter and sometimes fall flat on their faces. So just because you're a top shelf in one place doesn't mean you're going to be top shelf in another place. And it's what you do now. What you're doing now is, and it's got to be frustrating. You can tell he's a Blues fan very easily, ladies and gentlemen. But I like the fact that, okay, the Blues haven't recognized you yet, but you are recognizable as a Blues fan, a hockey team that's been around for a long time in a sport that, goes back over a century now. Mm-hmm. And you keep that connection alive because, a lot of people, in New England don't necessarily think Blues when they think top tier hockey teams. It's the Bruins, it's the Leafs and the Habs, the Canadians, right?
Yeah.
But the Blues hold a place in NHL history.
Yeah.
Part of the lore, part of the story. Grant Fuhrer is a story in of himself. That was a major thing. I remember Brett Hull leaving the Blues to go to the Stars to win a cup, kind of like Ray Bourque did.
Yeah.
And everybody kind of understood what was going on there, even though it sucked that the Blues couldn't get him to the promised land.
Well, actually, so that there's an interesting story there. Now, first of all, Brett Hull is by far and above my favorite player. I've met him twice. I met him once after the Gulf War.
You met him?
Yeah, I've met him twice. Just like outside of the stadium or at a signing or something like that. Really, but never really had a chance. I want to interview him, and I'm still working on that. But I have connections to the Blues alumni group, and that helps me out a lot too. Because I've interviewed Gary Unger, and if you're a hockey fan of any ilk, the first thing you got to wonder is why Gary Unger's not in the Hall of Fame, and you know exactly who Gary Unger is. But Brett Hull, basically his time in St. Louis wore thin, right? And he came back to him after and said, hey, you know, I'll accept your agreement. And they told him, you know what, we're going to pull the agreement. It's off the table. And you know, he had to make a choice to go somewhere else. And, you know, it sucks that he got a cup somewhere else. It really does. And there's times where, you know, I wish he could have gotten the cup in St. Louis, but St. Louis had bad owners for a long time. And even owners that tried to do good weren't foretelling, right? They looked at the here and now, and you can't look at the here and now. Sometimes you got to look to the future, and they didn't do that. We have an owner now that does do that. And because he looked to the future, 19 happened. And that's going to go down. That's going to go down as one of the best cup teams in the playoffs ever, right? They didn't have to go. I think it was like, what was it? I want to say the Kings went like 16-2 in one of their runs, or 16-4. They lost 4 games in the whole playoffs, but they made a run where they were not favored in any of the series. I don't think they were favored in any of the series. Yet here they are making this run. And, you know, you get to the second round, they were within millimeters of getting knocked out in game 7, right? Ben had a really close wraparound that just about, I mean, if Bennington's pad slips a millimeter, the puck goes in, right? It's that close. It's that close. And, you know, fate really helped us that, and it'll be one of those series that just is looked that way.
I think, you know, the team is definitely on its way up, you know, by virtue of Chicago faltering, and they have. I mean, part of it is they got old. Part of it is they had a lot of cap space. The Predators were, you know, everybody's, you know, the Predators are finding out this isn't just exactly like, you know, football. I think this is my view. I don't know much about them, honestly, but you know, I think it'd be a good time to see the Blues, you know, come back into the forefront, and I love it. You know, as you do your show, Guy, you know, technology has changed from when you and I started. I was telling somebody else, I said, man, what you had to do to produce a show 3, 4, 5 years ago versus what you have to do now is a lot of the heavy lifting that you and I used to have to do is gone. Mm-hmm. Do you find the live experience easier, more satisfying to do than it was when you first started?
No. Actually, no, I don't. The problem with live, I mean, it would be the problem with live is getting it out there, getting it shipped, people knowing where you're at, right?
I agree. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's an issue. You're not on the radio. There's no. I mean, it would be great if there was a podcast channel or something where it would be easier. And then when you do video on top of, you know, more than audio, that even make that you even narrow it. I enjoyed doing the studio style show. I got better, you know, I usually got better views and things out of that. But the amount of time you had to put into it just didn't feel like it was. I didn't feel like I was getting the return on investment, the ROI. Whereas here, I have the investment, and it's during the live time, but the ROI is, while it's not numbers, it's the interaction. I get better interaction, but I do miss getting, you know, 150, 250, 300 people watching something you put together. Now I get maybe 20. So it does have its, you know, yin and yang. It's got its positives and its negatives.
I go back and forth because that's kind of why I do pre-recorded shows, because if when I like going live, I do. I mean, it's a lot of fun, but unless your audience is keyed in on that, they'll miss it. And then what'd you do all this for? Yeah. And I will admit, yeah, it's a lot of work going back on the video editor and the audio, getting them to match up and do it right. There certainly there's a skill level that I kind of like. I kind of like, seeing like, okay, this was all messed up, or I'm gonna cut a couple of our little, oopses out of here tonight, no problem. But making all that work, right? But it is a lot of effort. But it also, I mean, look, I'm watching you start your show. I'm watching you change and morph over time. I watched the, Warriors hockey thing. And the thing that I think that I really still connect with you on is he's doing it because he absolutely loves his subject, the blues. And he likes it when he gets people in there, because I've been a part of this, and people are just interacting with you about your team, man.
It's not just my team, because I try and bring on people from other teams. I've had a Blackhawks fan, Windy City Hockey, on my show before a Blackhawks game, and not this one, but the last game, I was on his channel while he was doing live play-by-play. I enjoy bringing other fans on. I enjoy getting other fan bases involved, because you have to. This is one thing. This is the thing that I believe in more than anything else in the world. And it kind of goes in with what's happening in the world today. There's three sides to a story. There's my side, there's your side, and there's a truth that lies somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
You're never going to find that truth unless you have both sides available.
Well, speaking of truth and sides, I mean, one of the things we want to talk about tonight is what's going on in the world with, Russia invading Ukraine right now. And it's kind of notable for hockey, because the U.S. and other places have a lot of Russian and Ukraine players, and the KHL is a big, deal over there. Mm-hmm. What's your view on this, and how, not only from the military war side, but also from the sports fan side, about what's going on in our world right now?
Well, first of all, people have always said that sports or politics doesn't belong in sports. And for the most part, that's okay. I get it. No problem. The issue is there's times where they cross each other. And unfortunately, Alexander Ovechkin, he's on pace. He's trying to break Wayne Gretzky's all-time goal record. Has on his Instagram pictures of him with Putin. He has said that he supports him. And when this happens, it's very difficult for reporters. It's very difficult for the media. It's very difficult for the fans. It's difficult for everybody. However, if you're willing to put yourself out there, then you've got to answer the call. I heard today that FIFA is no longer allowing teams from Russia or players from Russia to say that they're from Russia. You have to be the United Russian Republic or something like that. That's a joke to me, right? Those guys, tell them to play their sport and stay out of politics. If you're going to be political, if you're going to support, a side that is considered the bad side, then we have a chance to say, you know what, maybe you need to sit for a while. However, I think it goes both ways. I don't think they should be saying anything either way. I'll be honest. I don't know enough about the situation in the Ukraine to say that what they're doing is wrong or what we're doing is wrong. I honestly don't. I don't have the knowledge to say that. So since I don't have the knowledge, I'm not going to put an opinion one way or the other, because I don't want to find out later that my opinion was completely wrong.
Right.
Right. I don't know why he invaded Ukraine. I've seen so many different things. It's not even funny. Something from mineral rights to, I don't even want to say the other one. It was so far-fetched, but that's how far it went. So I don't know. So in my eyes, do your sport, protect your family. And that, I think, is the biggest thing. Some of these guys still have family over there. And the prevailing thought process is that those families could come under harm if they speak negatively. One of the players, Neri Panarin, had some, basically what was considered false charges laid against him by the government because he spoke against it. So, he lost games. He lost some time because of these trumped up charges. I mean, at least they've been considered trumped up charges. So I want to be careful. I don't know the whole side of the story, but that's something that needs to be looked at. I hope that's what you were looking for.
Well, no, I just wanted your honest take on it. You know that there are other things going on because, you know, unlike, you know, baseball has a lot of Latino, South American players. Football primarily does not.
Yeah.
But hockey has a lot of Russian and, you know,
European players. We do.
Yeah.
Right. We do. Well, you look at the international scene right now, just like the World Juniors or the international hockey. Czechoslovakia is coming up, or not Czechoslovakia. Man, that's how old I am. Slovakia is coming up. The Czech Republic's coming up. Finland's coming up. Who's some of the other ones? I've been to I was in Yugoslavia when it was still Yugoslavia. Those countries, those what were former Russian republics or whatever, and when it comes to hockey, they're coming up because for Russia, in the Winter Olympics, the hockey gold medal was the only medal.
Right.
That was it. At the Sochi games, Russian players told you that was the only medal that they wanted. That was it. That was the only medal that Russia was worried about. They didn't care if they won every other medal. If they didn't win the gold medal in hockey, which they didn't, but that was the medal that they were concerned with. So in doing that, they used that reach of theirs to create this, you know, the ground up hockey culture in that area. The KHL is not a step below the NHL, but it's a step above our minors. Right. And it can be a good league. Really, for me, let the players play. Right. Don't worry about the politics until it gets to that point. Right now, other than Alexander Ovechkin, I don't think it's at that point.
Yeah. Well, it just, I don't know. We have sport to unite us. Sport has been used to try to divide us too. I read something about the KHL. They run very differently than the NHL. The NHL gets a lot.
I mean, there was a time when the KHL was definitely rollerball.
Right.
Do you remember those movies, Rollerball?
Yeah.
Right. There were guys. I remember talking to guys. I've had guys on the show that have played in the KHL. I've had former members that have told me they asked to get paid in US dollars every game. Right. And then I don't remember which player it was. He told a story, and not on my show, but I remember reading this, of he got paid in US dollars, and as soon as he walked out of the locker room, he got robbed. And he got robbed by the team because they didn't have the money to pay him. All right. I mean, but the KHL has gotten better. It's getting better. The KHL is going to be, it's not going to rival the NHL, but it's definitely going to help the NHL. And there's a lot of U.S. players that go over there and play.
Yeah. One thing I was going to ask you, as we're winding down here is, I use this term loosely. When I coach my son's hockey team, I was just a, papered door opener and shutter and water bottle guy. I stood where the defense was and got the kids on the ice and off the ice. But one thing I noticed from the USA Hockey's program, and I was told that you have to go through all the training and everything, right? Is it just seems like that USA Hockey is working very hard to make sure players are developed the right way at a young age. And I didn't know if that's just us doing that, or is it to compete with the European nations that are doing this, or is the U.S. wanting to reassert itself as a hockey superpower again?
I think internationally, the U.S. still lags behind everybody else.
Yeah.
In the World Juniors, they do end up gold medal, silver medal, bronze. So they are coming up. But in the Worlds, we don't do so well. One of the reasons we don't do so good in the Worlds is the Worlds are held at the same time has the NHL playoffs. So unless a team gets knocked out in the first round, they don't have really high-end NHL players over there, right? And then some of the higher end from other countries go too. So it's a good international game. But USA Hockey really only looked at the Olympics, a 4-year thing. They didn't look at the juniors or the worlds as something that was important to them. What's changed that is the women's game. The women's game has changed that, and now they're looking. They're starting to do what Canada's doing. I'll tell you something I wish we had here. I know we have the USHL, but it's not very big. I wish it was the US Development League, like Canadian, the minor junior, the juniors in Canada, right? I would rather our guys play juniors in the US than in Canada. But right now, they know if they want to get drafted or get their skill level up, they've got to go to Canada. We need to bring that to the US.
Yeah.
We need to bring that style of game and that style of taking care of 18 and 19-year-olds to the US. And that's what I think would really help our development program.
Well, the one thing people don't understand, and I learned this the hard way, is I thought, well, hey, the kid can start off with town hockey and go all the way to the NHL. I didn't realize that about 13, 14 years old, a parent could sign over their child to some coach or some coaching development house, and those are the kids that are really good, that get picked up by all the D1 schools if they're in the US or the Canadian system. And you've got to, as a parent, spend a ton of money to get your kid good enough to be in the NHL. It's just the way it is.
Yeah, that's the one negative with hockey. Hockey is an expensive sport, right? Good, a good skates. I mean, real good hockey skates, $300-400.
Yeah.
Sticks, 100 and a half a piece. You need 4 or 5 sticks.
Did they break?
Yeah, you need 4 or 5 sticks. I have. You can't see it, but I have a signed Mike Hoffman stick hanging my jerseys up. I got lucky with that. I have another stick that I use, a professional stick that I use, that I got from someone that I know connected to the Blues. But that stick is new is a $250 stick.
Right.
The pads, the shoulder pads, they're $150. The hockey pants, they're $250. You wear these out. You go through them to get the ice time. It's $100 a game.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, you can easily be in the $10,000 a season.
Yep.
For a junior player, right? And I'm talking a kid, 7, 8 years old, 10 grand, right? Very few other sports require that. I mean, the closest one would be football. But football doesn't come close to 10 grand a season.
No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. And also, I tell people that the time investment, I'm like, yes, there's some sports where you practice every day, but I mean, my oldest son, when he was making his run, I had him on the ice, him and his mother, we would have him on the ice 4 to 6 days a week.
And that was, and a lot of the practices were for school, 5 o'clock in the morning, 6 o'clock in the morning,
It's crazy, but it's amazing what these individuals become. Well, I just, it's taken a while, and here's my promise to you guys: it's not going to be 2 more years before I have you back on. No. I'm thinking, as we go deep in the playoffs, I'm going to have you check back in, and definitely, maybe we'll do that, right? I'm going to promise you right now, we're going to have a check in during the playoffs, maybe a couple. And definitely for the kickoff of the 2022-2023 season, that'd be cool.
Yeah, absolutely, man. Anytime you want to do it, I'm open for you, bud. And anytime you want to come on and talk hockey with me on my show, I'm open for that too.
Well, I don't know nearly the maybe I'll get my son to join me, because my oldest is like super into it. But it's just it's one of those things. Just to go back to the veteran angle real quick. I mean, a lot of our fellow vets, played baseball or soccer or hockey, and, they get out and they feel kind of like alone or isolated. And I'm trying to tell them, like, you're not going to be in the NFL, but there's nothing wrong with playing a pickup game somewhere of your sport or coaching to stay involved with it and be a part of that community. And some of them are like, yeah, that makes sense. And I just love the way that, not just for, like I said before, man, you've been doing this for years. It just shows a real love for the game, man. I really respect that guy.
I appreciate that. Well, with Warrior Hockey, right? Those guys, I think now they're at 130, 140. That those 30 and 40 are on a waiting list, right? I think they just started an Echo 15 because they have so much interest, right? But they're a family. I mean, one of the things that I wrote about in the story was they had a guy come to a practice and another guy noticed that he had that look. He had that look and they pulled him aside. They stopped practice. They pulled him aside and found out, yeah, he was well ready to do it. And they got him into a treatment program. They helped him out. And now that guy's a dad.
Oh, man.
Right. He just had a child not too long ago. And you can see that the team really helped him get to that next level. Right. And that's something that you need to remember is that us veterans, no matter what we went through, it doesn't matter if you served in wartime or peacetime, you still served. And you have an understanding, you have a connection that doesn't go away. Right. One of the hardest things for me is when someone says, thank you for your service. I don't know how to respond. I usually just say, thank you back.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do. I mean, I didn't serve in combat, so it's like, all right. I'm very like, thank you, and don't make a big deal of it. And I got to tell you, man, the reason I do that is there was a time in our country where that didn't happen. Guys were spit on and ostracized. So I take it with a grain of grace. Yeah.
No, it is. It's nice to see that. I'll tell you what, I mean, I remember, so when I came back from the Gulf War, I was stationed in Japan. And when we came back on the base, we were looked at as returning heroes or whatever you want to say it. But outside in town, not so much.
Yeah.
Right. There wasn't this feeling. I was in Japan when they brought new carriers over, the protest. There were protests over it. There's still a lot of that happens today. So you see both ends of it.
Yeah.
Right. You see both ends of it. I know, I don't look down on anybody because they didn't serve in combat. And I don't look on another combat bat as an equal because I look at my combat differently. Right. The guys that served in Iraq are different than guys that served, in the Navy during Iraq or during that period. But the mental fortitude that you have to have and the alertness that you're on a daily basis, doesn't matter if peacetime or not, it takes a toll. It really does. And when we understand the toll that's taken, that is when we get to that point of brotherhood.
Well, I definitely, agree. I mean, I didn't serve in combat, but, it changed my life, changed a lot of things that, I did. I look at things differently for sure. And I just like that sport kind of brings us all back. I mean, we serve together, but the fact that we both like hockey and, you do this, brought us closer. I just think that that's something that we as veterans need to embrace. I think it's something that's cool that, we would all come from different places and, be hanging out, talking about sports and football. And it was just a little slice of life that was away from all the fast pace we had to deal with. So it's needed. It's needed. Well, so here's my promise. I'm going to look at the May, June time frame to talk about hockey playoffs.
Yep.
They'll be in full swing then. I'm going to have you back on when the season kicks off. And definitely, I want to see you grow, man. So let's make that happen any way I can help you out. I've thoroughly enjoyed this. I know it's taken a while, but it's not going to be 2 years next time. It's not.
No, it's not an issue. But I remember the first. So you had posted something in 22 Until None, and you had someone talking about hockey, a veteran dealing with hockey on the show at that time. And I was like, hey, wait a minute, man, I'm doing the same damn thing. Don't forget about me. And that's how we connected. and we've, you've done, we've had our different things going on, and that's fine. But, it's the fact that we made a commitment to each other and we followed through on it. And that's what's important. It's not the time period. It's really not. It's the commitment, right?
No,
You're committed to your show. I'm committed to my show. I'm committed to my website. I'm committed to my YouTube page, my Facebook page, all of that. So, yeah, do I make money from it? No. Would I like to? Hell yeah. Would you like to make money from yours? Hell yeah. It's, but don't hurt it. Don't hate us for that.
No. I mean, and that's just the respect, because I know how hard it is to keep it going over the course of years. So not going to be 2 years next time. And we just know how to make it work, and we'll keep on having fun, man.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, thanks again, everybody, for watching. I'm going to have all the links to Guy's website and his Facebook page, all that in the Awesome Mike Radio show post. If you are a sports fan, and if you're a hockey fan for sure, 100, you need to be subscribed to this, and maybe we can get the Blues to change their mind.
On non-game days, I come on at 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on YouTube, the Blue Note Fan Report. I'm kind of, Facebook and me aren't getting along right now, but I'm also on Twitter. I've got a couple of different Twitter handles out there. You can, if you find HISTL Blues Fan, you're probably going to find me. I love talking about the game, not just the Blues, but I just love the game in general. And it's a connection, and I love veterans. And if you're a veteran out there also, I haven't said this yet. I applied to a writing workshop through the Writers Guild out of Hollywood, so hopefully get that. But if you're a writer and you want to write about sports, let me know. I got a place for you, right? Let's get your stuff out there. Let's not hid. And if you thought you always wanted to write but didn't, do it. Do it. I've learned that. Get out there and write. Get out there and do the thing that you want to do, and don't let anybody tell you can't do it, and don't let anybody stop you from doing what you love.
Man, I think that's the best part of the night right here is you didn't care. You just went out and did it. And, for me too, I didn't know what I was doing at the time and just kept doing it and didn't stop. So, it won't be 2 years when we're talking again. Well, I am Travis with Oscar Mike Radio. I'm with Guy Bensing, Navy veteran, Blues hockey fan, Blues hockey man. It won't be 2 years next time. I'm going to say that until I believe it, and I believe it. I just want you guys to check him out, and thanks again, Guy.
Oh, no problem. Anytime, Travis. Anytime.
I want to thank you for joining me and watching Oscar Mike Radio. Now go to OscarMikeRadio.com and click Shop to check out all the cool merchandise from Authentically American. All proceeds go to veteran service organizations. We are Mission in Flight.